Hi, I'm Lou Sclafani, a retired district chief from Pinellas Park, Florida, where I served for over 30 years. I'm also an adjunct fire instructor at St. Petersburg College, where I teach a 40-hour aerial operations class. Now, before I go any further, I would like to stop and thank Clarion Events and Fire Engineering for inviting me back to speak at FDIC 2021. Now, I was supposed to speak at FDIC 2020, but we all know how that went. 2020 kind of sucked. So let's hope that 2021 is better than that, because it can't get any worse, right? It can't, can it? Let's hope not. Anyways, I'm looking forward to presenting my class. It's titled Aerial Apparatus, their tactical and strategical use, and training tips for the truck crew. And I really hope you have time to fit that into your schedule. Lots of good programs this year, I know, but I hope you're able to find some time to come sit in on mine. I think first we're going to look at the different types of aerials that are on the market and available to us today. We're talking about ladders versus platforms. We're talking about mid mounts versus rear mounts. We're talking about a little bit about TDAs, water towers, steel versus aluminum, those sorts of things. They all have some pros and cons. They all have some drawbacks. They all have some, things that just don't make them the perfect aerial, because there is no such thing as a perfect aerial. There just isn't. They all have limitations, and they all have things that they excel in. So we're going to look at some of the operational differences. I have some comparisons we'll put up on the screen you can see. I think we're going to talk about positioning ladders or aerials, because if you position a ladder for rescue versus positioning a platform for rescue, it's slightly different, just because they're different devices. So you position them differently. Just like you position your aerial device for a rescue differently than you would if you positioned your aerial for a fire attack, for a defensive op. The different objectives, and that's what I call that's what I call positioning for objective. I'm really not a big fan of having like a SOP, SOG, whatever you want to call it, and say that you always take the front, you always take the rear, whatever. I'd like a better idea of what's your objective, what's your assignment, and you position to best serve that objective or that assignment. I think we're going to have some good discussion about stabilization issues. There's been some photos and some videos that have circulated around the internet over the years that have been somewhat controversial, spark a lot of discussion. I've captured some of those. Like I said, I have lots of videos in my presentation that I've whittled down to this hour and 45 minutes that we have at FDIC. I'll play a bunch of those, and we'll have some good discussion on that. We'll talk about load capacities, and maybe even some emergency procedures, emergency lowering procedures, making sure you know how to do that. I think we're going to talk about some aerial failures. People like to know if there's been any failures. And the good news is that modern aerials don't fail that much. There have been a few failures. If you go back 25 or so years, there really haven't been that many. Very few of them have been design or build errors. Sadly, the majority of them have been operator error. And we can control that. And we can control that through understanding our vehicles. We can control that through training, education, and experience. You have to use them once in a while. You can't, it's the biggest, most expensive piece of equipment we got. You have to practice. You can't let it sit there and then expect to be perfect on it on a spur of the moment or an emergency call. So again, like I said, I have some videos, I have some pictures. We'll make our points that way and discuss the things that we have up on the screen. And like I was saying before, aerials are probably the most expensive, biggest technical piece of equipment that we have. And it's very important that we know how to use that properly. So what I did was I developed a series of 10 or 11 training drills that you can take back to the station, back to the department, and you can do company training with them. And I mean, literally, we're talking a year's worth of training for your truck crew so that they're really proficient. They're really proficient, efficient, competent in what they do. Like I said, biggest, most expensive, most technical piece of equipment we got, we should really know how to use it. So if we're just really good on the training ground, hopefully that rolls over to being equally as good on the fire ground. Anyways, that's probably it for now. But I can't wait to see you at FDIC 2021. Looking forward to that. And until then, be safe and train hard.